Good morning students. In this video we are going to learn about the chapter static electricity. So before starting the chapter static electricity, we'll have a brief introduction about the current electricity. In current electricity, we talk about the electrons which are flowing. The electrons which move from one place or from one conductor to the another conductor or in the inside the conductor, we call it by the name current electricity. So we are very much aware of this topic because we have learned this in the A part. Now we'll start the chapter static electricity. Static, the word static means rest. In this chapter we are going to learn about the charges which are at rest. So it was discovered by the scientist Thales that apart from the conductors, as for current electricity we have studied that only the conductors can be having the flow of electrons in them and they can be charged. But according to Thales, he stated that even the insulators like plastic, nylon, balloons, they also can be charged by the static electricity where the electrons are at rest. So he discovered that Thales stated that the two insulators can also be charged by static electricity where the electrons are at rest, and these electrons comes from the friction of the two insulators. If we take a glass rod and rub it with a silk cloth, we'll rub it with a silk cloth. Silk, if we'll consider it as an insulator, glass rod is also an insulator, but when they are rubbed together, then due to friction, the charges will flow from one body to another body. So here the substance or the object which loses the electrons will gain the positive charge on its surface, and the object which gains the electrons will get the negative charge over its surface. So this is the first example that we are going to study in this chapter, that is the friction of silk and the glass rod, where when they are rubbed together, the silk acquires a negative charge and the rod acquires a positive charge. Second example will be the friction between the ebonite rod and fur. When ebonite rod is rubbed with fur, then the ebonite rod gets the negative charge and the fur gets the positive charge. So here again we can see that the fur is getting positive charge because the atoms present in the case of fur is losing the electrons, and those electrons are getting acquired by the ebonite rod, so as a result of which it shows a negative charge on its body. So after this we should understand that how an insulator is able to lose the electrons. For this, we should be understanding the concept of atom at first. So in your previous classes, you have already studied the structure of atom, where the central part is nucleus, consisting of neutrons and protons, and the electrons revolve around the nucleus in fixed orbits. So here the electrons, as the distance of the electrons from the nucleus increases, the attraction power of the electron to the nucleus also decreases. So these electrons which are present in the outermost shell are known as valence electrons, and when one atom is rubbed with another atom, so these valence electrons, which can be called as free electrons, they are being lost by the atoms. So if it loses one electron from here, so it will get a positive charge. The another atom which will acquire this nucleus will be getting the negative charge. So this is how the friction helps in the formation of static charges between the two bodies. So from the very childhood you might have seen that a very common example, if we'll take a comb and put it near to the bits of paper, the bits of paper will not get attracted to the comb. Take a plastic comb, dry plastic comb, and if you bring it near to the bits of paper, small bits of paper, there will be no attraction at all. because plastic, as we all know, is an insulator. This bits of paper is also an insulator. Then rub this plastic comb with dry hair. When this plastic comb is rubbed with the dry hair, it will result in the loss and the gain of electrons between the comb and the dry hair. After friction, when the charges are developed on the comb, now again bring the comb near the bits of paper. We will observe that the bits of paper will cling to the teeth of the comb. So this shows the formation of static charges. Then another example, as we have already studied in the previous classes or in chemistry also you have studied, that like charges repel and unlike charges attract each other. So we'll have a brief introduction for the same here. We'll take two balloons and both the balloons has to be rubbed with a ball. On both the sides we'll rub the balloon with the balls one by one. It will be 1, 2. We'll rub it with the ball one by one. Then after that, when we bring the balloons together, they will repel each other. Okay, so what will happen? Balloons, because they have developed the same kind of charges, what will be shown? The balloons will move away from each other. Now for the second, so from here we can experience that the like charges repel. Now let us have an example where we will understand that the unlike charges attract. We will take ebonite rod rubbed with fur. So as we have just now understood that ebonite rod will get a negative charge. Take another rod which is rubbed with silk. So glass rod when rubbed with silk, it will develop positive charges. When these two rods are brought near to each other, it has been observed that both the rods are attracting each other. This shows that unlike charges attract. First example to show that the unlike charges attract each other. Second, if I am taking the two ebonite rods and both are rubbed with fur. So from here we can see that both the ebonite rods when rubbed with fur will get the negative charges over it. When these two rods will be brought near to each other, it will be observed that the two rods are repelling each other. So from here we are understanding that in case of static charges also, the unlike charges are attracting each other and the like charges are repelling each other. Now we'll understand in this video that how an insulator can be charged. So for charging an insulator, there are two methods. First, by conduction, and second, by induction. So by conduction, it is generally used for the conductors. We'll understand this conduction method at first. In conduction method, two rods are being taken. I'm marking A and B. Rod A is taken to be the rod which is charged. Let us suppose it is charged with positive. And rod B is uncharged. In conduction means they will come in contact. So when the rod B will come in contact with the rod A, so what will happen? The electrons which are present in the rod B, I am talking about the free electrons which are present in the B rod, will be getting attracted by the electron deficient atoms present in rod A. Electron deficient means positive charged Because it is positive charge, so there will be some of the atoms which are not containing the electrons. So it will attract the electrons from the rod B. As a result of which, now we will have the rod B with the atoms which will be deficient of electrons, because now it has lost its electrons. Let us take an example. It was deficient of 8 electrons and it was electrically neutral. So with the help of conduction, it was able to acquire 5 electrons. So what happened? This rod B became deficient of 5 electrons. So what will happen? It will develop positive charges over it. So in the method of conduction, the same kind of charge is developed on the other rod which is brought in contact with the first rod or the charged rod. If we take a negative charged rod A and bring it in contact with the rod B, so what will happen? The electrons which are extra on the rod A will be attracted by the rod B, as a result of which it will also acquire a negative charge. So this is the process of charging a conductor by the method of conduction. Now we'll understand about the method of induction. Induction means the charges are induced. The charges are induced from the charged conductor due to the presence of charged conductor on an uncharged material or an uncharged rod. In this, we are taking a rod A over a stand and a rod B over a stand. Let us suppose that the rod A is having positive charges, means it is having the atoms which are deficient of electrons. Now what will happen? That when this rod A with the positive charge is brought near to the rod B, now it will contain many atoms. So here the atoms which are present in this part. So what will happen? Due to the presence of this positive charge, the electrons from the other end of the rod B will be getting attracted to the end here, to the first end. Let us take the first end and second end. So electrons from the entire rod will be getting attracted to the end 1. As a result of which the end 1 will acquire a partial negative charge. Now this end B is deficient of electrons, so it will acquire a partial positive charge. So basically you can understand the difference between conduction and induction. In conduction, the same kind of charges were developed on both the rods. But in induction, you can see that it was having positive charge. The rod B, which was uncharged and brought near to the rod A, what happened? The end of rod B, which was near to rod A, acquired a partial negative charge, and the end which was away from the rod A acquired a partial positive charge. So I hope that the topics are clear what we have discussed in this video. We'll have the next video to discuss the remaining topics of the chapter. Thank you everyone.